been a long time between drinks, but Crash Bandicoot is back, and shinier than ever.
This time round, it was developed by Vicarious Visions, who actually made some of the Game Boy Advance games, as well as Crash Nitro Kart, which was good, but not as good as the original.
So, Nelson, what's your history with the series?
Well, actually, I think Crash 2 was the first game I ever owned, if I remember correctly.
Mine was a Porsche Challenge.
Oh, nice. Never played it. Yeah, so I played a ton of the first 3 Crash games on the PS1, and I have really fond memories of them.
Yeah, same here. We actually revisited the series about 6 months ago.
Yep.
We wanted to get a bit hyped for the new one. It wasn't quite what we remembered, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure, especially Crash 3.
Yeah, Crash 3 was not what we expected. Crash 1 was actually kind of unplayable, I'd say.
Crash 2 was still great, though.
Yeah,
Love that game.
Crash 2 is fantastic. How good does the game look?
Oh, it looks great. Like, seriously, everything is so recognizable from the first game, and all the enemies and bosses especially just have so much character.
Yeah, it perfectly fits the tone of the first games, to be honest. Which is good, because when the first footage came out, I was a bit worried. The colours kind of looked washed out, and wasn't really feeling it at the start, but really came through. I'm really glad that Vicarious Visions actually listened to the fans a little bit.
Yeah.
Because some of the models for the crystals and gems, they looked really 2D.
Right.
Like, you know when you pick them up at the bottom?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It looked pretty shoddy, to be honest.
Right.
Not a big fan of it.
So we thought the best way to talk about this would be game by game. So let's start from the beginning with Crash Bandicoot 1.
So I was the one that went back and played the first Crash Bandicoot on PS1. It was not a good experience. The game it's pretty broken. So in the newer games, you saved by just going to the save point. In the first one, you had to complete the bonus stage in the level to do it. That's fine at the start when it's just easy. Later, when you've got the Dr. Brio bonus stages, they're a nightmare. Honestly, when we replayed it again, it must have taken 10 goes, 15 goes.
Wow.
And you meant to do it the first time to be able to save. So that's just terrible.
Yeah, it just felt like they were making the game harder to, lengthen the game.
Yeah. So then you've got breaking boxes. Now, in the games, you're meant to get the gems to 100%. 100%ing it is where the fun in the game is.
For sure.
But the problem was, in the first game, breaking boxes did not carry over if you died. So even if you got a checkpoint in the level, mid-level, the ones you got before the checkpoint, they wouldn't count. You have to go back or just restart the level.
Yeah, and backtracking's way harder than just coming through normally.
Yeah, you just have to start again, which is terrible.
The original game set some good groundwork for the series, but they didn't quite know how to implement everything yet.
Yeah, the levels themselves aren't too bad. Some of them are actually pretty pure Crash fun.
Yeah.
It's just the system around them is just horrible.
Yeah, it's just pointless. The remaster addresses some of these issues. Saving is now done by autosave, you can retry bonus rounds with no penalty, and breaking boxes has been fixed with checkpoints. A nice quality of life change is that the bouncy boxes are now 5 bounces instead of 10, a change brought over from the later games.
To maintain the difficulty of the original game, to get coloured gems you still have to get all boxes without dying. This can be so hard on the Lost City and Slippery Climb, 2 of the hardest levels in the game. This is something that is tough to address, as the coloured gems are needed to get many more of the other gems, as they unlock secret pathways. On one hand, it's good that there is something for the skilled players, but it may be too frustrating for others. In Crash 2 and 3, the levels are designed with extra pathways for the coloured gems, but because this is a remake, the levels in the first game are not designed with this in mind.
While the game is hard, people are really exaggerating the difficulty here. I know it's become a bit of a meme to compare everything to Dark Souls, but seriously, if you think Crash is on the level of Dark Souls in difficulty, your opinion on Crash just means nothing.
Yeah, everyone's making that comparison, and you respawn like 10 meters behind where you died.
Yep.
In Dark Souls, it's half the bloody level.
Uh-huh.
I don't see it at all. Just because you have to get good at jumping doesn't mean...
I don't know, people are just used to games that hand feed them everything, I guess.
Yeah. Some of the other criticisms are just terrible. I saw one that complained that the enemies in the game don't come towards you. They move on a preset path.
That's just so dumb.
You know what other game does that? Mario.
Every platformer.
Every platformer. But the first Mario game, the one that everyone calls one of the best games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Every criticism people have said about this applies to Mario as well.
Yeah.
In fact, Mario's harder. You fall down the hole, you go to the start of the game.
I don't even think that's a problem with the game.
Honestly, this is probably the best translation of 2D Mario games to 3D.
Yeah, I see what you mean. The addition of speedrun relics is another fun feature, although it can be really difficult. Gold relics feel harder here than in Warped, but the addition of integrated speedrunning adds so much replayability to the game.
So Nelly, final thoughts on the first game?
Oh yeah, it's way better than the original. You know, like we said earlier, the original aged poorly, it was too hard, and while this one's still hard to 100%, it's definitely worth playing and worth going back to after you've beaten it.
Yeah, there's drastic improvement from the original in this remake. I'd say it's almost up to the standards of the later games.
Yeah.
Some people might like the gimmicky levels in the later ones, but
I don't.
you know, for the pure Crash experience, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Now on to Crash Bandicoot 2. Now let's get this out of the way early. This is the best Crash Bandicoot game. The addition of the slide mechanic is a welcome change that allows great rhythm with the slide jump. The game is hard enough to be challenging without too much frustration. Only levels like Cold Hard Crash come to mind as very difficult to 100%.
The levels all look beautiful, with the water physics especially looking good on the river levels. Bosses are now replayable, which is a nice touch, even if they are pretty bad. The Komodo brothers are especially terrible. They don't even try to attack you. The final boss is a joke too. Crash 2 introduces the warp room mechanic, which improves on the original's navigation between levels. Another improvement here is that you are able to access the bonus warp room by just going down below the first floor.
As we mentioned earlier, coloured gems are now separated from the clear gems and are attained usually by an extra pathway that is more challenging than the normal path. This was the best addition to the game's formula, as they have a way of incorporating difficult sections into levels without making them too hard for casual players. The new Nitro crates assist with this, as it allows precision platforming challenges without requiring the player break the boxes in these sections. This allows more creative level designs.
Bonus levels now appear from secrets. I always love this, as they're hidden in plain sight. They aren't always obvious, but there's usually something that leads you to discover them naturally. Bonus levels are great fun, and usually harder versions of a theme level, like the Night Polar Bear level. So what are your final thoughts on Crash 2?
I still love this game. It holds up so well, fun to play, introduces the best gimmick levels. So gimmick levels are levels that aren't really just the core Crash gameplay.
Yeah.
So this one, the Polar Bear, so much fun.
Oh yeah, I love those. But my problem with the gimmick levels is, in the last world, you've got those jetpack levels.
Yeah.
They're trash.
They're not great.
Yeah, but I mean, there's worse ones coming in Crash 3.
That's true.
Crash 2 really just nails the gameplay perfectly, and it improves on everything from the first game.
Now for the final game, Crash 3 Warped. Now, I'd always remembered this as my favourite Crash game as a kid, but coming back, my opinion's changed. There are far too many gimmick levels in this game. The actual Crash levels here are fantastic. The Arabian theme, the Egyptian theme, and the future themes are just all great. The issue is that they're broken up with too many underdeveloped and honestly just not as fun mini-game style segments. The motorbike controls terribly. The jet ski is okay, but it's tedious to try and 100% them, especially the bonus level. The flying levels are just boring. Underwater levels here control terribly, and they're just not as fun as playing normal levels. They're all okay, but it'd be just so much better if they made more pure levels.
The upgrades are another addition we really could have done without. The slam upgrade does nothing. The double jump and spin ruins a lot of the levels, since you can just fly through them without really trying. The bazooka is terrible, and no one should ever use it. It ruins the pacing of the game. Sprint is fine, but it means you need to finish the game before attempting any of the speed runs, since it's so much faster.
Now with all of that being said, Crash 3 is still great fun to play and to 100%. All of the secret paths and death routes that are in 2 are still here, and they're what really makes the Crash experience for me. The fun of having to stay alive to get the extras is my main thrill of the game. When Crash 3 is on its best levels, the gameplay is some of the most fun in the series, no doubt. There are just too many filler levels though.
I think that the addition of relics will be Warped's greatest legacy. Speedrunning the levels is so much fun when you know them back to front. It just adds so much replayability, and I'm glad the other levels in the trilogy got the same treatment. So anything else on Crash 3?
When it's at its best, it's great.
Yeah.
There's just so many levels that they're not that fun.
Yeah, and they don't need to be 2 or 3 of each of the gimmick levels.
Yeah, I mean, in total I think there's 4 motorbike sections, including the bonus.
Oh yeah.
There's 2 airships. They're just boring. You just fly around and do nothing.
I think there's 3 jet skis, there's a couple underwater. The only good ones are the ones where you're riding Pura, the little tiger.
And then that's an idea taken straight
From
from
the
2.
second game, yeah.
So it really comes down to they're not that fun.
Yeah, I agree.
So it was a bit of a shock to the system going back and playing them again, but I honestly think Crash 1 might be better in my mind than Crash 3.
Yeah, I think I've had that change in opinion as well.
It's so tough because, like I said before, the themed levels that are just normal Crash levels are so fun. The secret routes, the death routes, so much fun. It's just not worth the other hassle though.
Yeah, it's really a change for the worse.
Yeah. If they keep making these games, which I hope they will, I hope Vicarious Visions really takes a hard look at the levels. I understand that this was a remake, so they had to keep them as close to the original as possible, but I wish they weren't in the game, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
So, how did you think Vicarious Visions did with the remake of the game?
Yeah, I think they nailed it. It's probably the best remake I've played. You know, the only other one I can think of off the top of my head is the Halo Anniversary one, which was really good, but they half-assed the multiplayer. So yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, I felt that the graphical update was just what the game needed. I mean, the gameplay is pretty much identical to how it used to,
Yeah.
which is great because feel is very important for this game. In the PlayStation 2 one, the Wrath of Cortex, the feel wasn't right. It was too floaty.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It was too floaty and the levels were a bit too wide open. So in the classic trilogy, the levels were really narrow.
Yeah,
I think most of them are only about 8 boxes across.
that sounds right. Yeah.
Whereas in the other game, it was too wide and the controls were just, they weren't there. Here, I'm glad to say, feels just like the old games, which is what it should do.
Yeah, for sure.
Just on the topic of difficulty, I'm on the fence about the coloured gems in the first game.
Okay.
So if they got rid of the 100% in one life requirement to get the coloured gems, it would make the game a lot more accessible
Yeah.
because they can be extremely hard. And I feel like a lot of the frustration from the reviews that we've seen have come from the first game.
Yeah.
On one hand, I like that it requires some skill, and I did manage to do them. Like, I have 100%ed with the help of a friend all the levels in Crash Bandicoot 1, but it did take a lot of patience and a lot of anger.
Yeah, I kind of just skipped through 1, just playing them without trying to 100% it, and then doing more thorough playthroughs of the second and third game, and I'm going to go back to the first game.
Yeah, that's what I'd recommend, to be honest. I would say, if you're new to the series, go through the first game, don't try 100% it. There's a lot of backtracking required, because most of the coloured gems are on later levels, so you won't be able to even do them. Then go to the second and third game, 100% them. Those are great fun.
Yeah.
No frustration there apart from
Yeah, apart from some bad level design, yeah.
cold hard crash.
Yeah.
But then go back to the first game, because a lot of the platforming will get easier once you get the feel of the game.
Yeah.
Some people, it takes a while getting used to.
Yeah, I was definitely like that coming back into it. You know, I forgot how precise some of the basic jumps in the first game needed to be.
Crash is very weighty. And
Yeah.
so when you're doing the pinpoint jumps on some of the temple levels in the first game, it is easy to just overestimate the jump and
Yeah.
just fall to your death. So it is frustrating, but I do like that there is still some skill required.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Initially, I thought the load screens were pretty bad in this remake. You know, that first load takes ages, but once you die, you respawn like instantly.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Some of the levels can be pretty long. I mean, some of the ones in Crash Bandicoot sometimes go for 2 minutes, even if you're speedrunning.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's too much of an issue.
Yeah. And at this point, so many games are having bad load times, I feel like it's just an issue with the hardware and not the games themselves.
And, I mean, if you're a big Crash fan, you'll remember how long they were in the Wrath of Cortex.
God, that was bad.
So, yeah, it's really not that bad.
Yeah.
Now that there are relics in all 3 games, something that would be a great feature would be the ability to see ghosts or the ability to watch replays of your friends and leaders. I really feel that this could help newer players get better and see how the levels are done. Some of the times to get gold are incredibly difficult in the first 2 games, and I'd like to see what the pros are doing for advice and reassurance that they aren't cheating. Because some of the times I've seen, I don't know what I did wrong, but they beat me by 15 seconds on a perfect run.
Having Coco as a playable character is great. Both her and Crash have just amazing animations, and their deaths are personalized to each character.
Overall, the Crash N.Sane Collection is an amazing game, and especially great value with some of the prices we've seen it at. I'd consider it a must-play for anyone who enjoyed the games as a kid back in the past, but I'd even say for most people in general. These games aren't made that often anymore, and it's really fun to go back and see what games used to be like.
Yeah, if you're looking for a platformer, it's a must-buy. For anyone who's new to the Crash games, if you are finding the first game tough, just stick with it. Don't worry about getting any of the extras. Get through the game. Like we said before, play the second and the third games. You'll get a really good understanding of the controls, have some more fun levels, and eventually you can go back and finish off the first one if you're feeling it.
Yeah, I think you really come to appreciate, after playing the gimmick levels,
Yeah.
you'll enjoy just playing some straight-up Crash levels.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I hope it's successful. I want to see more of these.
Yeah, me too.
Vicarious Visions, they did pretty decent jobs on their Game Boy Advance games, and they've actually proven themselves here, I think.
Yeah.
They seem to have a good understanding. They had the foresight to see what was wrong with the first game, fix up a lot of the issues.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I'm glad it's in their hands, and hopefully we'll see more games. Crash Team Racing.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Chuck Spyro to them, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I'd probably give it about a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I think you liked it a little bit more than I did. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
See ya.